Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming and Spoilers, and this is The Walking Dead Episode 13, Tragic Death Spoilers. Warning, this will contain death spoilers, a very big font there. If you don't want to know who's going to die this week, do not continue to watch. The plot line is very, very complicated this week. I'm going to ask for all your thoughts, all your comments. It's going to be very hard to understand, and as always, I'd love to invite you guys to the live stream after the episode. So let's start out with round number 3. It's going to be very complicated. So we know it's produce week, and it is time for the kingdom to produce. They're on high alert. I think Richard created a little bit of high alert because he does have a master plan we're going to talk about just a little bit. You can see it looks like they're out in the open, possibly for an ambush, but ultimately they get brought together, and we've seen this before the last couple episodes. This is the third time we've had this meeting, and it always ends with guns drawn, someone getting hit, someone getting knocked down, but this week it is actually going to result in 2 major deaths. Here's the master plan. This is the plan concocted by Richard. So we know a couple weeks ago, Richard tried to get Carol killed. It did not work out in his advantage, but he had to go back to the drawing board and figure something out. We know Gavin is a little bit insecure, probably doesn't know how to count very well. When Jerry opened up the trunk last week, he counted the produce. Richard is going to use that to his advantage. Well, here's how it's supposed to go down. Richard is going to short them 1 melon. I think they have 12 melons, and they end up delivering 11. Now, there's been a lot of shade cast on Richard, rightfully so. He tried to get Carol killed, but people thought in the spoilers he was going to try to get Benjamin killed and blame Benjamin for the missing melon. I don't think it's going to go down that way. I think Richard is going to take full ownership of it. It's going to be interesting to see how the dialogue takes place, and that's really what's going to emotionally attach us to Richard or think that he deserved to die. An eye for an eye or a leg for a leg. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Now, when everything escalates, Gavin says to Ezekiel, I need you to understand the gravity of what's happening here. I gave you a choice. What's it going to be? So it seems like Gavin is going to negotiate with Ezekiel because they're short the melon and maybe offer him one sacrifice or another. Now, we need to go back a couple weeks and remember Morgan hit Jared, heavy metal guy, with a stick, but it was Benjamin that actually did the shot that hit him in the left leg and took him down. Now, because of that, Jared is going to return the favor. He's going to have a gun pointed at Richard's head. He's going to turn the gun and shoot Benjamin in the leg. Now, we can blame Jared and say Jared was going to try to kill Benjamin. Benjamin ultimately bleeds to death. It hits him in the artery. I'm torn on this because I don't like Jared, and obviously you guys know where I stand with this. I hate Jared. I hate the Polaroid guy. I hate Dirty Davy. But is Jared a stone-cold killer? Morgan is going to react to that. He knows that Richard had something planned up his sleeve. Whether Richard intended for it to be Benjamin or not, Morgan is going to go crazy mode and take out Richard. And Richard has said before, we have to sacrifice one way or another. The big question is Ezekiel just going to stand idly by and let Morgan kill Richard in front of all the kingdom? So many clues from previous weeks. We saw the one big one was bury me here, and there's a lot of speculation. Whose grave was it? Ezekiel standing over the grave, giving a little bit of speech. Well, it's pretty obvious whose grave it is. You can see everyone is up front. They're attentive. Richard is in the background with his head down. It's because Richard dug his own grave. And let's not forget the dialogue between Richard and Daryl. Richard said, I would die for the kingdom. Daryl said, why don't you? Got the wheels turning a little bit. And then Richard opened up in his camper. You saw the book bag of Katie. Ultimately, that book bag is going to be buried with Richard. I think Morgan will do him the favor. And, of course, the cemetery sign when Richard and Daryl were walking. That was ultimate foreshadowing as well. So much blame. This is where this week's episode gets so complicated. I need all you guys to participate in this because it's going to be emotionally confusing. First of all, we can blame Jared, the heavy metal guy. We can blame Gavin, the saviors, for being there and ultimately killing Benjamin. But is Jared a stone-cold killer? It's going to be interesting to see the dialogue and whether he taunts them leading up to that. We could also blame Ezekiel. Rick and Jesus came all the way up there to try to let him know the dire straits they were facing to get Ezekiel to help strike first. Richard's been in his ear over and over again saying, come on, we need to make a move on these guys. Did these deaths have to happen? Could Ezekiel have been a little bit more proactive? We could blame Daryl. Daryl's the one that said, why don't you lay down your life for it instead of setting up other people? So Daryl could have tried to talk him out of it, but you can see the look in Daryl's eyes. He did not care. Definitely we could blame Richard. There's been a lot of shade, as I said before. People are saying that Richard is responsible for Benjamin's death. Indirectly, he is, but Richard was really trying to sacrifice himself for the bigger picture to get Ezekiel to force his hand to get him to fight. But ultimately, this is about paying our respects to Benjamin and Richard. It's going to be very, very interesting to see the dialogue that goes into this week because we know what's going to happen, but I think what's said and how it goes down is really going to emotionally attach us to these deaths or separate us. No doubt about it, Benjamin was too young to die. It would have been a big part of war, but Richard is the real wild card here. Do you guys think Richard was a bad guy? You think Richard was desperate, or he really needed to be the catalyst to force this war going forward? I'm on the fence with it, but I'm leaning more toward Richard was a pretty good dude. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. This is The Walking Dead Episode 13, Tragic Death Shocker. My name is Killshot, and as always, your thoughts and comments are appreciated. Look forward to seeing all of you guys on the live stream, Spoiler Sunday, and also the episode recap after The Talking Dead. Peace.